Good Sunday evening, everybody. It's Ray Gibson, and tonight it's been a while since I've done a collaborative live with other trans men experiences, and the reason for that was because I had eye surgery last September, and so it's been a minute since I have done one of these. I'm getting ready to pull this up so that I can see these comments off to the side. I'm not one for much for rituals, but I just wanted to let everybody know that 2 years ago today, I lost my only sister. And so this day was bound to be a little emotional for me. It kind of started out crummy, thinking about her because I miss her a lot. But I just wanted to give a moment of peace for all of our ancestors who are up wherever they are in the universe, looking and smiling down on us. I know my ancestors are proud of the work that I'm doing. That I am. This platform of mine is giving a narrative to transmale experiences. Now, before I get into that, I just wanted to say there's a lot of petty whispering going on right now about me not being inclusive of non-binary people. And, you know, it's just a bunch of talk. As far as being a gatekeeper, I am not a gatekeeper. I am talking and sharing experiences with trans men because that is my experience. I have no experience with other kinds of people under the transgender umbrella, and I'm not a spokesperson for everybody under the transgender umbrella. It's getting rather messy under there. They keep adding acronyms to LGBTQIA, and other parts of society are trying to spell out the entire alphabet and thinking it's kind of funny that that's happening. But it is happening. And no, I'm not here to take on every single transgender experience. Mine happens to be from female to male, and that is the experience that I'm coming from. It doesn't mean I have an issue with any other kinds of transgender people. It's just I don't share their experience, and there's a whole lot of infighting going on. And until that infighting and that petty bickering stops, I am allergic to drama. So that is where I'm coming from as far as my organization is concerned, which is binary based, because we really don't have a platform we can dive off of where we can include all of the other terms that are underneath the transgender umbrella until all of the terms start embracing each other. Right now, that experience is for us to be on the front lines fighting for the rights of transgender people across America, while everybody else gets to hide and be stealth and ride on our coattails. And that is the only reason why I appear not to include everybody. I don't want to manage that nonsense, especially in my organization, which is focused on being black, not focused on being transgender. I am a pro-black man who happens to be of a transgender male experience. I am not a pro-black man who's including every experience under the umbrella. My organization is not big enough for that, to handle that, and it cuts off, it just cuts off having the focus swung in another direction besides being black first. So that is why, that is the term I'm being given as far as being a gatekeeper, when I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm just somebody who happens to promote and uplift trans male experiences. So there will be gentlemen coming in that I will be calling in one at a time to talk about manhood. Before I do that, one other bit of information. A month ago, when I announced that I was doing this live, I reached out to men of all racial experiences in this country. Not just black men, but Caucasian men, Native American men, Hispanics. I opened the door for everybody and anybody to contact me and not contact me. I actually got in some people's inboxes to ask them if they wanted to be on this live. So this one, even though all you'll see is black men, I opened it up to everybody. But, you know, as it were, I'm not sure what happened to everybody else. Hello, everybody. I see y'all coming on in. I'd like you to share this video. Yeah, share and like it if you would. Because when you set up these lives, you can't invite people before you set them up. I can sit here playing around with that after it starts, but I actually am more interested in, I've got the, good evening. Who is that? Giovanni. Oh, what was I talking about? That's another thing that age does. I'm a 61-year-old trans male. I started my transition when I was 58 years old in 2015. And what I can tell you about this growing into my manhood thing is that it's been very isolating to define what manhood means to me personally. I don't have the influence, I don't have the benefit of having a lot of cisgender men around me to, like teenagers do, teenage boys do, when they start growing into their manhood. So I was 58 years old when I started this, and it has been a real trip to have to define that for myself through observation, through communication, through talking not only to transgender men, but cisgender men. I think when we talk just to each other and we don't have the benefit of having cis males, which just means men that identify with the gender that is on their birth certificate, where transgender means we do not identify with the gender that's on our birth certificate. That's totally biology based right now. You know, there are efforts to change that throughout the United States, but that's probably a long time coming, especially with the 45 and his minions out there pushing against transgender people in the military and underhandedly going after the vulnerable in our society, our children who are in school. You know, everybody is fighting against the patriarchy that the kind of environment they're trying to create in Washington, D.C. is excluding everybody else. And then I have, on the other hand, black people, pro-black people that I've been watching also exclude the LGBT. So we're getting it from all different directions, the level of not being accepted, our narratives not being told in the United States. The narratives that are being spoken and told throughout this country is of trans women. And we have not really gotten a decent platform to speak our narratives in this society. Yeah, if you look around, you'll see that. And, you know, by the same token, not only are we trying to define who we are as men, we've got a whole bunch of, I would say, anti-males, anti-men out there who always seem to have something to say about men, and especially men of color. It's like we can't win for losing. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of like that experience. What do we got down here? You're welcome. You're welcome, Giovanni. And so these men that will be coming on to share their experiences of what they've gone through manhood, I do not know all of them. There's another thing that's going on especially on this platform, is like a competition, like a popularity contest. And people are kind of sort of talking around things, but they're really trying to promote themselves. And so my purpose for making lives like this is to do a collaboration, not a competition with trans men, to raise their voices in a non-combative, non-competitive nature to just have us talk about what it's like to be a trans man in society today. And for me, it's a cross between being very, very happy about that and being very, very sad about that. I mean, I'll tell you a little secret. I've had a razor kit sitting in my bathroom for 2 years. Won't touch it. Now, I can use clippers, but I'm afraid of my razor. I've never used a razor before, and I'm afraid I'm going to end up... I remember my father, when I was growing up, I used to watch him come out of the bathroom after he shaved, and he used to have these tissues all over his face from nicking himself. Maybe I'm vain or something, but I don't want to be having these little tissues all over the place from me missing with a sharp razor. So I'm afraid of my razor. What else about manhood that's a trip? Oh, we've become kind of invisible inside society. You know, when I first entered into this, it did not occur to me that I was a man until I was about 3-4 months into this. And when it dawned on me that, oh my God, I am not a lesbian. I've never been a lesbian. You know, what am I going to do? And I started to grieve for the life that I had. You know, my family grieves for who they thought I was from before. They're grieving losing their daughter, niece, aunt, whatever. They're grieving that while they didn't realize that I was also grieving a life that I used to have. And I pulled away from all of the lesbian groups on this platform because they were for, you know, they don't want men around. And so I pulled out voluntarily. Nobody had to throw me out or have a conversation with me that I shouldn't be in there. I just volunteered myself out of those groups. And then I began to, my mannerisms all of a sudden began to change. The way I walked, the way that I sat, the things that I think about. You know, testosterone is a real freaking trip. I call it the miracle drug. But in effect, the first 6 months to a year, my libido was so stupid that, you know, and I was with somebody who had no idea the physical changes that would happen internally, physiologically, not just physically. We go through changes mentally. I look at a lot of things differently. I redefine myself as an alpha male. I redefined a lot of things as I watched various people and various men and decide what kind of man that I want to be. And I think all of us go through a little bit of that, but you don't really get to hear that process and what that's like from us, our narratives. So I'm giving us a platform in which to do just that. So I think the logistics are out of the way. I do have a window open over here so that I can see the comments. More so, I had to run from another meeting to be over here to change clothes and then get ready for this live. Because I'm absolutely committed to what I'm doing. I'm hoping to be able to do these once a month with various trans men. Oh, there was going to be a Native American in this this live tonight, but he got laryngitis like you wouldn't believe. That man, I couldn't hardly hear him. So he's taking the day off and he's watching instead. But yeah, I wanted to have a mixture of male experiences and what it has meant to us to become men in a society that don't want us to become men. They just don't. You know, I don't even know how to explain that, except, you know, maybe I'll interject as I'm talking to some of the guys, and some of the guys are telling you their narratives about what manhood has meant to them. And with that, let's see who I can pull in here. Okay. Okay, the first guy I'm gonna pull in here. You'll have to excuse me because I'm a little rusty with this. So I'm gonna invite Quan, and you can introduce yourself. I've also given the men permission that if they did not want to show their face, they can have their camera pointing at their ceiling. So you may or may not see their faces, but you will be able to hear their voices. So that's just to protect the guys that are stealth. What is this? Ow! That works. Okay, Quante, I'm pulling you in, man. You're the first one to jump in here. I guess that it says it's adding you. So I guess it must have sent an invite to you, and all you have to do is accept it. Adding Quante. Oh, there you are. How you doing, man? How you
Yeah.
doing, sir?
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing pretty well considering.
That's good. That's good.
So,
So,
why don't you tell us a little bit about you and whatever you feel like telling us, and then what your experience of defining yourself as a man has been like for you.
okay, sure. So, for me, I'm basically in the beginning stages because, well, I won't say the beginning stages, but kind of just in the experience of it. I I grew up in the South, the Bible Belt, where a lot of my family have not been very understanding. They haven't accepted a lot of things. And so I had a very hard time trying to just be who I was as a person.
Hmm.
Um, Also, being legally blind and being disabled, um, when you have medical things, when you look at T and things, you have to be a little bit, conscious of those things. Um, I want to
Okay.
say because I haven't just had the support around me of family as I would have hoped, even with friends not really totally understanding, especially when you start out as, you know, um, like when I came into knowing that I loved women, I knew I wasn't just the typical, oh, I'm a typical lesbian that just loves other women, but I just never liked labels. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't really just think, well, what am I? you know? And because I had never been around others that were like me. I couldn't just pinpoint what it was.
Okay.
Um, and I think after college and everything, and as I started to just kind of find other people who I could relate to, I started to understand a little bit more then. I said, okay, well, I kind of can put a name to it.
Yes.
Now I can understand what's going on.
Yes.
Once I kind of figured that out, it's like, okay, now I need to figure out how do I step into this manhood. I don't want to, I didn't want to have to face what my family would have to say because, I'm a very family oriented person.
Okay.
But it came to the point of me having all kind of anxiety and things like that. And I'm like, this is not healthy for me.
Yeah.
So I can't just live how you want me to live.
Yeah.
And it has to be an apologetic thing. I am who I am. And if you can't accept that, I don't really know what to tell you at this point. And I think, when you get to a certain age, you just have a zero tolerance towards certain things.
Yeah.
And it's like a lose-lose situation when you're just trying to just please everyone else
Yeah.
when it's not pleasing you,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I think when I moved to Louisiana and I joined a support group, just being around others in that support group, it made me feel proud of who I was. And it helped me to step into, look, this is who I am. And many in society, they don't understand it. Many in society, they don't like it.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the community, because I have a lot of lesbian friends, but I still felt bashing and things like that. And like you said, I had to step out of a lot of groups because it was more hindering me stepping into who I am more so than helping me.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of look in the mirror and face myself, you know, and say, look, it is what it is. Um, and so I'm basically this year I'm saying, look, this is who I am. If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, but I'm gonna do me, and I just I can appreciate the bonding that I have with my fellow brothers
Yeah.
because if I had that bonding, if I had that support when I was younger, I would have been done this. But because I did not, I kind of just stalled and I kind of tried to make excuses or, just felt totally confused and frustrated with myself, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I just feel like this year, I'm just dedicated to myself and just being who I am and being around those that are going to unconditionally love me, support me, and if not, I just have to walk away.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
tough part of this transition is, even when I started, I knew I might lose the support of my family and my friends and people who knew me from before and the entire community. I had to know. I knew that when I started transitioning, I might lose all of them. But I was ready for that,
right,
and I guess because I have a I don't give a fuck attitude,
right,
a lot of them knew that I wasn't going to change who I am. They either accepted me who I was, or guess what? I didn't have time to coddle their emotions while I was trying to deal with my own. You know what I mean?
right, right,
Uh,
right.
my own changes, my own. I mean, that's tough enough by itself, let alone having other people outside of you fighting against you too, because this is a struggle in ourselves too. It's a battle in there.
It is, it is. And that's what I'm saying. It's like I had to mentally prepare myself because I already knew what it was going to be. I already knew how my family felt just, from general conversations in the past or just them mentioning others. And so I had to mentally prepare myself
Yeah.
and say, well, if this does happen, then I just have to be prepared to just keep moving forward without it.
Well, some of them, it just takes them, some of them, it just takes them longer because what I noticed
Hmm.
is over time, I've been in this for 3.5, well, 3 years and something months, and people slowly are coming around. Um,
Okay.
but it took me standing up for me and me being on my
Hmm.
own and away from them for them to realize I'm not playing. This isn't a phase, and this isn't something that
Right.
I'm looking for them to accept in order for me to love and accept myself.
Right. And see, that's the thing. You said the key word, a phase. It was that way when because I had very long hair in high school. And when I chopped it off, it was like, or are you trying to be butch or something?
No, you
And I'm
just are,
like,
right?
yeah, it's like, oh, what are you trying to do, Newt? No, you don't understand. I'm trying to tell you, look, this is, I had this hair for you. I had this hair to not hear your mouth. And so I had to, in a sense, code and do what I just had to do, you know what I'm saying? And so it was like, but once I got comfortable with me, it's like I've been boyish all my life, But even though in a sense, you have to accept yourself before you can ask others to fully accept you for all of who you are.
Exactly.
Um, and so I think I just got so I was fearful of the unknown of what the reactions were gonna be that I just kept it to myself, and I just try to just worry about what other people were gonna think, how they were gonna feel, if I'm gonna, even with relationships, it was like
Yeah.
I see people sit here and they bash or they stereotype and things like that, and I'm like, okay, do I want to be faced with that? But then you get to a point where you say, well, if you're unhappy, what's the use of what you're doing anyway? You know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I'm just gonna have to go with the lather.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. I was involved in a relationship too when I started to transition, and we never had an authentic conversation about how she felt about it. But it was very
hmm
clear how she felt when she would get mad and call me. She told me, you're a woman, don't you?
Oh
Now,
no.
this was 3 or 4 months in when that came out of her mouth, and I went, uh-oh. I went so ballistic that I had to leave the house because I was ready to pounce on her. I was like, you know what? You knew this. I told her I was a trans man when we met. And for that to come
They
out,
just like to do those low blows.
low blow,
You know,
boom.
yeah,
I
come
just,
on now.
just, just, oh, I mean, oh, all the air came out of me and I was blowing it. I was like, mm. And, I'm single today because that relationship. She never accepted
Right,
me as a man. She wanted to
right,
turn me
right.
into a butch. I don't know what she wanted to keep me there. Oh, you're going to have top
Right,
surgery?
right,
Oh, you're going to
right.
have bottom surgery? And I'm like, what?
And see,
And
that's a problem too when people start assuming that they know what your journey is going to be. You don't know that.
I
I
didn't
just
even
want you to
know even
walk
when she
along it
brought it
with me.
up. I didn't know. I,
Right,
I hadn't
right.
even
That's what I'm
thought
saying.
about it until she
Right,
hysterically brought it up, and I was like, oh, I don't know. But
right, right,
it was just the feeling of not being supported at all that made me say, okay, that's not the right thing for me because that doesn't support where I'm going and is working
right,
against me. Um, but you said another key word for us is support.
right,
Um,
right.
I got into support groups immediately, the month
hmm
before I started to medically transition. And that probably helped me more than anything else is to be around other people that were like me.
Right. And I think it's important, especially when it kind of almost feels like when you're going through puberty, you need someone to kind of either guide you or at least just show that unconditional love so that you just feel okay. At least, you know,
Yeah.
I won't say it's like okay, but it's just, you just feel like, oh, well, somebody else can relate. Oh, somebody else understands. So hey, if they've gone through it, they got through it, they're doing all right.
Hmm.
I can't too, you know.
Did you say you were on testosterone or you're not?
I'm not.
Okay. Oh my
I
God, when you
like
do
I
go on it, you're going through second puberty. That's what
that's what I'm saying,
that's what it feels like.
but right, that's what I'm saying. But when you think about it, like even mentally,
Yes.
that's how it feels.
Oh, yes.
It feels like you're trying to, well, I don't know. It just like that's the only way I can think, like, kind of think of it when you're comparing or contrasting.
Yeah.
Um, you're trying to step into this, and some things you have to just learn from experience of it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be told a lot of things. Especially in the South, a lot of things are taboo, or it's just and see, for me, it had to come to a point of where I had to deal with a lot of religious individuals.
Yes.
And when I realized I was more of a spiritual individual, that was a conflict too. And it was like a lot of people, telling me, well, the reason that, things are not going right or this, and the other is because you're not doing these things. And I'm like, you know what, I'm not trying to have that argument with you.
Yeah, well, God
So,
is very personal to each and every one of them.
exactly. You have to have your own relationship, regardless of, whatever. I mean, everyone has their own perspectives, everyone has however they feel,
Or their
and you just respect one
opinion,
another. Right,
opinion.
right. Why can't we all just get along?
Well, people just, they're so swayed by, I don't know. For me personally, Christianity, and even, well, I'll say Christianity mainly in the United States, is just so ass backwards. People,
Yeah.
I've seen the Bible, I've read it. We're not supposed to be judging each other. Um,
Yeah,
and they just use that to bash people over the head like,
yeah.
my way is the right way. This way is the right way.
Right.
That way is the right way.
And
Excuse me, I'm
exactly. And
61 years old. Who are you to tell me what's right and wrong? I know what's right and wrong. I ain't hurting nobody. You're hurting
and
somebody.
it's right.
You're
Exactly. It's like
you're
my
hurting
dad.
me with your
You're
judgment.
right. Right.
God judges me,
You're
not you.
right. And it's like, because my dad, he's like, oh, if you're not in this church, you're going to hell. My mom is like, and it's like, what I really don't like about some Christians, they choose and pick what they want to pick and use it to what they feel like is their advantage over you. Don't do
Yeah.
that. Don't do that.
Yeah, we
But like
all
you
need to
said,
come from a place of love within and acceptance of a lot of different kinds of people. We may not like everybody, but that
right,
judgment just has to go. That's
right,
destroying the country. These quote
okay,
unquote Christians in
right,
Washington claiming they're Christians and don't know nothing about the love of God. Because if they knew it,
right,
could they do what they're doing?
right. And see, my ancestors are Choctaw. So if we really just want to go there, I mean, you took our land. Um, and I mean, I could go all deep into
Oh
that, but
yeah,
I won't. But
yeah.
it
We can
just,
all get off of that. Like, oh my God,
yeah.
we can make
So,
mincemeat. Hate the haters.
yeah, I mean, I'm just like,
They took your
it's
land. They
really
drug us here.
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I have the backlash of both sides of it. You enslaved some, you took away some's land. It's just a lot, and it's like, but I don't have hate in my heart, and that's what I just would want for everyone else. Just
Yes, sir.
regardless of the differences, regardless of the past, let's just have that one love, or just at least respect one another. If it's not for you, that's fine. If you don't understand, ask.
Ask.
If you don't like it, oh, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, most people
So
ask because they don't like it and they're afraid of what you're going to say. Like,
that's true.
don't be
That's true.
scared. Don't be scared. This is not scary on the outside as they're making it. It's like, okay,
Right,
look,
right,
I'm not a scary person. I'm a great guy. I keep you
right,
laughing. I have you really entertained. If you just can get past this transgender thing. Um,
right. And if you quit worrying about a label or what you see on the outside, and you get to take a time, just get to know this person.
yeah,
Give them the opportunity to say. I mean, you can't judge regardless. I mean, whether you say whatever you say, it doesn't matter. But what I'm just saying is, just take the time out to get to know this person, and you just never know. You just never know. But it's I've had to just do a lot of isolation and evaluation, and kind of redo my circle, because it's like, are you in my circle just if it only benefits you, or are you in my circle because we're supporting and loving one another,
mm,
you know?
good
So,
point. Yeah, I'm having to
yep.
redefine my circle too and put people out that were really trying to use me instead of support me. um,
Right.
for their own personal gain. And people are very self-centered these days,
Very.
and
Yeah.
they're all about me, my. What can you give me
Exactly.
today?
Exactly. It should be a give and give situation. It shouldn't be a take and take situation.
Yeah,
Or I should say give and take. But like you said, a lot of people, maybe because of what's going on in our economy, so many people are worried about how do I survive? What
yeah.
about how do we
How
survive?
do we?
How do
Yeah,
we, yes, how do we come together? How do we overcome this? Regardless of what your race is, regardless of who you like in your bedroom
yeah.
or what your gender is, that doesn't really matter.
No,
you know, so yeah,
yeah. It's very
but
important to realize the we means all of us have to fight against injustices going on in the United States. Uh,
right.
we are the leaders of the free world. And if we don't do it here, they're probably not going to do it anywhere else. And what we do here blows across the oceans. Um,
Exactly.
and it goes north and it goes south. I invariably see a lot of the attitudes and things going on in the United States popping up in other countries.
Mm.
Um, I don't know why that is, why people look to the United States as to judging what they should and shouldn't do to people, but they seem to do. Maybe because this is such a melting pot. I don't know. People are here from all over the world.
It could be that people have a certain image of our country, and it's like supposedly the land of the free, but we won't go too deep into that again
Free.
because not the
Maybe the home of
yeah.
the
I mean,
brave. Maybe it's the home of, because we got to be some brave
oh,
motherfuckers
not
to
even really
survive this.
brave because listen, I wouldn't even say brave because some of the courageous things are not really courageous. Like it's like you're I mean, just with all of the police brutality and
Mhm.
things like that, I just don't think that's brave. You know,
Well,
um,
no, it doesn't take
but
bravery to hit somebody over the head or shoot them with a gun.
right,
If they didn't have those guns,
right,
they wouldn't be that way.
exactly, and that's what I'm saying. It's like it's a you have a song, but you listen to the actual lyrics of what they're saying. Does that coordinate? Like, but it's just like I think maybe in the past certain things, well, no, because really we have a repeat of a lot of history,
Yeah.
and it's just I just really wish it was at a point after Obama that we did have more unity. We do have more open-minded individuals
Oh
to where
no.
we can coexist.
They were just
I know that's
waiting for
asking for
him to
too
get
much.
out of there so they can
I,
go
I know.
back to being.
Right,
I mean, he represented black people because he was black, but he wasn't able to do anything for black people per se because they're not the ones who
right,
paid him to get into office. That's who
right.
those politicians cater to, by the way, is whoever paid the most money in their campaigns.
Oh, I see.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So the things that he
Yes.
did while he was in office were catering to those people, including the LGBT.
Right. And I agree with that. He tried to I think he tried to play it safe, if you
Yeah,
ask
he,
me. It
he
was
took the
like
high road because they'd have killed that man in a second
yeah.
if he didn't toe
Yeah,
the
you're
line.
right. You're right. That man is very smart. So I mean, if he just did what he felt like was gonna be the best thing to stay alive and
Okay,
just be
be
on
his
top.
children's father, and live to see
Exactly.
another day.
Exactly.
Because no
I
way
mean,
are the powers to be going to let
hmm
anybody.
yeah. It's just it's just like if Martin Luther King or Malcolm X was president.
It
I
would have
mean,
never happened. They'd have killed. They were after anybody who
exactly.
threatens the establishment ends up
That's what
murdered
I'm
in this
saying.
country, um,
That's what I'm saying.
including shit right now, including us, including any leaders that threaten to come to the forefront. Um, all sorts of people are watching to make sure that does not happen unless they're
Right.
white males
Right.
or white female, heterosexual, straight people.
Right.
So,
Right.
so, so, how do you find that to be in defining your manhood too? Are you coming up against any? Do you see you defining yourself as a man as any way putting you in a different category than you have been all of your life? I don't know how old you are or how long you've been in this process, but have you seen you've had to take a different approach to politics, to well, you already said you did with religion. You went from religion to spiritual.
Right. Right.
Uh,
I kind of get what you're saying.
you know,
I would say I get it. I would say because I've most of the places I have been in the South. It's been Atlanta. It's been my actual hometown was Mississippi, and that's why I said, you have racism, you have a lot of things that you're up against. And so it's like I have all these strikes against me. So I'm like, look, I just want to live. I want to be happy. But I am gonna, be smart about it. So I
yeah,
think it did play a very big thing. Like I had certain opinions, I had certain things that I would have loved to have said, but I kept my mouth closed because, having seen the things that I've seen, this hearing some of the things that I've heard, it just made me kind of conscious of that. So when it came to politics, I would watch. I was around my grandparents and things a lot of times when I was younger. So of course, when you're around older people, that's what they do. They read newspapers, they watch the news and all these different things. Um, but I just felt like,
well, wait,
I grew up and I'm like I saw a lot of it. But I also was around friends that were of different races, and I don't want to offend them due to the ones that had that hate in their heart. So it kind of made it just hard. You have to try to find a balance. And you just have to be able to know, again, it's kind of like with your circle. You have to know, you have to pick your battles, basically.
yeah.
Um, so there are times I just won't speak on it if I think it's going to go totally left. And then there are times that I'm definitely going to speak up if I really feel like it's really messed up, you know.
But have you
So it
actually
just it varies.
have people actually had a change of heart in your life?
They have. I went through a very high anxiety. I've had all the very severe panic attacks and different things because my mother and my sister were like, just big in my life. And since I've pretty much, let them know the changes that could be, or just in general who I am, it's been complicated,
Mm.
and just even with my other family and everything. So it's just been complicated.
Well, it's a complicated issue in a complicated world.
Yeah, it is. But like again, I had mentally prepared myself, and I think that actually was more of where most of it came from
Yes,
because I knew the possibility of the reaction.
yes.
But I said, I can't. I'm the type of person, I don't like to lie. I hate lying, and I don't like to pretend. That's just not who I am. So it's like, if you're going to ask me a question, be prepared for the real answer. um, because my mom would be big on wanting to ask questions. And I'm like, are you sure you want me to answer this question? you
Did she
know,
say yes?
um, yeah, she'll say yeah. But then when you hear,
But did she get upset at the
when,
answer?
yeah, and then that's when the whole religious battle comes
Oh,
into play. And I'm like, here we go.
baiting, kind of
And I'm
baiting you
like,
into so she could bash you over the head with religion.
basically. And I'm like, then that's when I have to do what most black mothers do, just start tuning you out because I'm like, I'm not going to do this with you. You brought me into this world. I'm not going to disrespect you. But at the same time, if you're not going to respect me, I can't really respect the fact that you're basically just emasculating, you know.
Exactly.
And I'm
I've
not
had
going to
family
just sit
members do
here
that
and
to
just
me, try to emasculate me. You ain't no man. How the hell you blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I'm not going to apologize for threatening something about your securities or whatever.
right.
It's like,
And see, the thing is, when as I was growing up, because my mom was more so of a single parent, so I felt like growing up I was the brother, but not like the title of brother.
correct,
I picked up the pieces. I would be doing all the duties that the brother or the father would be doing, but I never got credit for that.
correct. Yeah, that
Um,
kind of sucks, huh?
that does. And it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna continue doing it because that's just what I do, and I'm gonna respect any woman that's in my life, whether they're in my family, their friends, or whatever. I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, this is, I have to kind of love you from a distance in a sense because I can't keep just being unhappy because you're unhappy with who I am or my decisions, you know.
Yeah, it really is about acceptance and self love. We have to do that regardless of what anybody thinks.
Right,
Or we end up full of anxiety and upset
right,
and depression and a whole lot
right,
of things that people don't know the underlying reason why is because they have
right,
fully embraced themselves. They're looking for others to do that as permission
right,
to embrace themselves. I didn't ask for nobody's permission. I just did it. It was like, nah, I'm ready. This is who I am. I embrace it. If you don't, oh well.
right. And when I tell you, when it comes to anxiety, it comes to dysphoria or depression, like it's real. And I don't think people understand. It's some things in life, just the way some, gay people realize it's not a choice.
It's not a
You
choice.
don't, right. And it's like, if you had a choice, would you really choose to face a lot of the things that you face? I don't choose to be different, but I am.
Yeah.
I didn't choose a disability. I didn't choose to be legally blind, but do I let that hinder me? No. I continue on in life. I live my life and I'm going to do whatever I do. So, it's just interesting with people. People are interesting.
Of course they are. We're human beings. Human beings are full of flaws. But
Right,
I
right,
I dip in and out of anxiety very very seldomly because I keep myself so grounded with my friends and people who do accept me. I kind of ignore the ones who don't,
hmm
even though it's hard for some of them because some of them I would like to be closer to, but you know they've got that barrier there called, oh, you're too different.
right,
You're too different for me.
right,
Like, okay, well, I'll be different then.
right. I mean, we're human. Everyone is human that's walking on this earth.
Planet.
Even sometimes I feel pets, or sometimes human the way that they react. But I mean, it's just like, you know, again, if it's not your preference, if that's not what you like, that's okay. But why can't we coexist?
We can
You know,
coexist if people would just drop the judgments.
right. And it's just sad that within our own community we have to face that. That's the thing that kind of bothers me. Because the same way when I go into a support group, it shouldn't be just this group of people under the umbrella. It shouldn't be that way. It should be we should be able to embrace one another within this umbrella, this rainbow umbrella.
I don't even know.
And it's,
I'm getting real confused about who's under that umbrella.
they keep adding stuff up under there.
Well,
I know.
I, I don't even want to get into that because it just, people have already accused me of being a gatekeeper because I don't particularly enjoy trying to keep up with all that shit.
Right,
But
right,
it's like, how many different, what are you calling it? All these people under that umbrella letting us take the brunt of all of the abuse out there while
right.
there's something else that people can't tell. And I'm like, okay, well, what do we do with all this? So I just, just keep myself as centered and balanced as I can without being torn by the limb of every single body. And did you know they're trying to put pedophiles under that umbrella?